The rug pulls, scamming, not paying up, underworking, overworking, stress, mind explosions. In today's video, I am going to be explaining the top 13 brutal business partnership lessons that I personally learned, having had 3 failed business partnerships now, that will save you millions so you don't have to. If you don't know who I am, I'm Luke Anning. I am the anti-self-sabotage coach for 6 and 7-figure founders. And so we help our entrepreneurs scale without getting in their own way. Now, this was actually designed as a client training because a lot of our clients are either accelerating really fast, somebody sees them accelerating really fast, sees all their momentum, they get offered a business partnership, they get offered this deal. Another situation is we have people who are already in a partnership. A lot of our clients, over 50% of our clients, are already in active business partnerships as is. And they come with us, they come to work with us to make sure that they're not getting in the way so that they can be the best business partner and best business leader to win. So I want to do this, but this is actually going to be a client training as well as a video. So a little gift to you, everybody on my channel, for this type of stuff. And so let's get into it. So partnerships will break slowly. Most partnerships don't collapse from one moment. They break through repeated patterns that nobody names early enough. This could be unclear roles, vague promises, emotional leakage, unwritten money rules. And so you want to be building a partnership that exposes problems early, solves them cleanly, and protects the business before emotions get really expensive. And so the first lesson that I learned is defining ownership early. So before momentum builds, both partners need to have absolute clarity on ownership, responsibilities, and compensation. And the reason this came about is in one of my partnerships, we had some semi-clear roles, but there was no really definition on if that person was going to fully do it or if that person wasn't going to do it. And so there was also no consequences involved if that person didn't do it as well. So let's say, for example, this business partner needed to do the marketing, and the marketing effectively hadn't happened from the last 6 or 7 weeks. And so then I was running the sales team, and I was like, well, how am I going to keep my sales team full of active, fresh leads, fresh blood to the business when my business partner isn't doing the things that she needs to be doing? And so I ended up then taking on that stuff, and that caused resentment, confusion. She was like, why are you working on this? And I was like, because you're not working on it. She was like, well, I'm having all these blocks, I'm having all these issues, but I was just like, just go and get it done. And so ownership creates responsibility. And it's so important that you have the responsibility and the accountability, and that you're willing to be held to that standard. Like if you're in charge of sales, then if you're not performing, you need to be called out on it. And it's not a personal attack, it's a business reflection. And we're going to get into another lesson here later on as to how to fix this. But at the start, you should know who owns which outcomes, what decisions and what lanes, who owns those things. And then what does each partner deliver each week? What do they produce? There needs to be a level of delivery. Otherwise, your business partner could be executing a ton, or you could be executing a ton and delivering a ton, but it doesn't actually matter, right? It's not actually relevant to the right thing that you should be working on. And then lastly here is the money piece of this. How is the compensation agreed? Like, are you getting 20% of cash flow? Are you getting 50%? Are you splitting 50-50? Like, how does that work? And so that should be really visible and really agreed, right? I was in a business partnership where the person kept changing how much I was getting paid. And so like it was like, oh, no, you're going to get paid 20%, or you're going to get paid 50% of this. And then it was like 30%, then it was 40, and then it was 10, then it was 2.5. It was a whole mess. So it should be in writing down. And that brings me to the second point, which is writing the operating agreement. So the operating agreement, very at its basic, is it gives both partners a written standard to return to when the conversation gets emotional, performance slips, or money decisions become unclear. And the reason being is because your memory, your mood, and verbal promises are not business infrastructure. They're not. And so without it, the partnership runs on vibes, and vibes are not enforceable. So there should be measurable outcomes that each partner is responsible for and working towards each and every week. And then there should be deliverables, like I mentioned in the last one. What must be completed, by whom, and by when? Then equity, like how much ownership is that person having, and what happens if that person leaves? Like what happens with the cash flow? Let's say, you're working for 3 months together and you're hustling, and then the other business partner leaves. Should the cash flow go straight to that business partner, or should it go like month over month? It's like, okay, now you get 30% in the next month, and then 20%, and then 10%, etc. And so when you go and write this operating agreement, you're going to want to make a collective decision on what you feel is fair. It should be a very formal meeting, recorded, notes all taken. Also, this is, oh my gosh, account access. So who can view, move, approve, or restrict business cash? You need to give your business partner, or you need to have access to the finances. I have had this mistake happen 3 times where I didn't have access to the finances, and when things got unfair, my business partner either decided to not pay me, or I'm still owed money. Like I'm owed money because the other business partner was insecure about paying me. Whereas it's like I have all rights to that money because it's been earned whilst we've been in partnership. And because I was a people pleaser and said like, oh no, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Because I was like, oh, this is my best friend. Like this is my relationship. This is like somebody that I really vibe with. I assumed something bad wouldn't happen. But things do. And so you both need to have access to the finances. And on top of that, if somebody decides to rug pull, as in you literally are in the business partnership and somebody decides to pull all of the business and run away to wherever, there needs to be something in your agreement that you can go and sue that person for that. And it needs to be legal and it needs to be legit. It's kind of like signing a, what do you call it? A prenuptial agreement, right? Where before somebody gets married, it's like, oh, I already own these assets. I already own these assets. This is what you get access to. This is what you don't. It's so important because otherwise you can get screwed. Decision rights as well. So which decisions are solo, shared, or required written approval? Like if you have a big financial decision that affects both of you as a business partner, and I'm not talking like a financial decision that affects how you operate as an individual, but I'm saying like, let's say you want to go and hire a marketing agency to go and pull in more leads for the business. Well, there might be a certain investment to that, and that certain investment might not be within your rep. Like you might want to both make a collaborative decision on that, and so you want to have a think about what are you going to collaborate on and what you don't. And then lastly, consequences. What happens when a partner repeatedly underdelivers? So I've been in situations where this is important within your operating agreement, where I was working 12 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day, and then my business partner would claim that they're working all day, but then when we actually looked at the numbers, actually they were only working 6 to 7 hours a day. And, they might have been doing better work than me, and they might have been doing higher value and higher quality, and that's also okay. Like, it would have been a good idea for us to have met earlier on what both of our hours are like, so that we could have collaborated together on what was the solution, so that person could either work more or I could work less, so that we were at a fair balance. Because otherwise it's like rowing a boat at a different speed, right? You're just going to end up going in circles. And so transparency and honesty about the hours that you're working and the things that you're producing are so critical, because then you can come into collaboration together to solve it, right? So this needs to be within the operating agreement. Third is running weekly reflection meetings. So every single week you want to be identifying together what are the biggest problems, and then categorizing that into what is actually happening, and then choosing the one fix that creates the most leverage. For example, there could be 100 different places that you go and store things, but like, let's say I'm going to go into Trello, and let's say, let's go and create a new board real quick. Business operations. And let's say my operations, we've got marketing, we've got sales, we've got admin and finances, we've got delivery or product service, depending on if you're more product based or more service based. And you've got all these categories, right? You want to be categorizing the problems. Like I might have a problem in my delivery being like client delivery projects are seemingly 1 hour behind or a day behind. And then I might have a sales issue, which might be like, all leads are broke right now. And then marketing might be like, overspending on marketing, little return. Okay. Now, if I'm in this place, it might be really easy if I'm looking at leads are broke right now for me to go, oh, well, yeah, like we should just go and build an offer that serves some of these broke leads. Like, or maybe rather than go from an 11,000 or a 15,000 or a 25,000 product, maybe we should do a $2,000 product so that we can serve these people. And you might think that that might be the solution, but you want to go underneath the problem. So when you're having these reflection meetings, asking, is this a symptom or is this a genuine problem? Because if I'm looking at this, like if I'm like all the leads are broke right now, so then I try and solve it with a new offer, then that's not the problem. The issue is in the marketing. The issue is further up the funnel. And so I need to work out, well, why are we getting broke leads? Well, we're not really doing any marketing. Okay, well, maybe we start doing some marketing. And then it's like, well, how do I do marketing? I don't know how to do marketing. So I might need to go and dive into some marketing knowledge or go and look at getting a marketing agency that's got proven results to come in and execute. So my point is you need to go underneath the problem. Like you need to understand, why is the problem a problem? Why is that problem a problem? And why is that problem a problem? And understand what is actually happening. And then you want to solve for leverage. So pick the move that gives you the biggest return. So look at the collective problems that you have. And then from there, what is the biggest problem that would give you the maximum upside? So if I fixed, for example, this sales problem and we finally got qualified leads to those calls, then we'd be like, oh yeah, let's go and do that. Let's go and get qualified leads to these calls. Then that's awesome, right? And the same thing as well is like, if you're burned out in delivery and you're burned out delivering what you're doing, the solution is not going and starting another fucking business or going and starting another offer. The solution would be, well, let's go and optimize the delivery so that we're not even doing it, or so that we're not doing the vast majority of this, and then we can go and focus on driving traffic to that. And then once we've focused on driving traffic and getting qualified leads to calls, once we're nailing that repeatedly, then let's go and get a closer to go and do that for us. And then your lead role just becomes leading and giving to people, right? And so if you're not in your genius zone right now, then go and solve until you are in that genius zone, right? And so what is the real problem underneath this problem? So the symptom, people are not problem, deeper issue, broke leads, weak traffic, or the wrong sales pipeline. What's the solve to that, right? So number 4 is fixing systems before blame. So it can feel really, really easy to blame a business partner for your problem. Now, what you need to realize is that your brain is a blame shifting defense mechanism. And so it will project the fault onto others to protect your ego. This will stop you from feeling guilt, stop you feeling shame, stop you feeling incompetent. And chronic blame shifting is basically a core trait with either narcissism or victim playing, because it stops you having accountability. And so when something breaks, you need to diagnose the breakdown before attacking the person. Most partnership friction is a missing operating standard or missing operating system pretending to be a character flaw. So it goes like this. There's either two problems. You've either got a system problem or you've got a business problem. So if you get a system problem, like, I don't know, traffic's not working, sales process isn't working, cash flow's not working. Let's say you've got one person that's in charge of sales and marketing, right? It would be really easy for the other person to blame that person as to what the issues are. But this person might just be not systemizing things as well as they could do and not running the sales and marketing department effectively. And the reason for that is because they don't have an operating manual of how to go and do that. So then if the question you want to ask when there is a problem, it's not only like, what's the core problem, but it's asking, hey, is this a system problem or is this more a person problem. And even if it is a person problem and you're blaming the other person, then it's like, it's not like, oh my God, you fucking idiot, like, why are you not doing this? It's like, hey, what's going on? What's stopping you from being able to follow this system that we designed together? Can we make it easier? Can we shift this? So you really want to come into a place of compassion. So if there's no SOP, because if there's no SOP, no checklist, no training, no communication rhythm, or no ownership lane, then of course it's going to make it really difficult to execute on that task because it's probably all in your head. Now, for my clients that are listening to this, then you can go and use Systems AI that we've just done. I'll drop it down below this video. For you guys who don't know what that is, basically it's a AI that has that teaches our clients how to go and build a system from scratch so that, you know, we're not operating out of our heads. If you want to know what it's like to come and work with me a little bit deeper from that, then cool, click the link down below. But with that said, I'm not going to make this a business pitch. Let's keep going. So number 5 is not having enough positive feedback. So a big lesson is you need to overload positive feedback. So HubSpot did a study and they found that when you do more positive feedback than negative feedback, at least 3 to 1, your business can be something like that. You'll get some 27% higher performance ratings from your team. So here's your proof, right? And so you want to really set what are the clear expectations, of course, first of all, but also then you're looking at how can you give your business partner positive feedback, like great job getting that deal, great job getting this sale. Hey, I really loved how you handled that specific issue, or I really loved how you've been showing up this week. How does it feel to get that just fresh positive feedback loop? So good. And so correction only partnerships create silence. It's the same within my relationship, you know. One of the learning lessons in my relationship was not to critique my partner. And the reason why I was doing that was because I was very self-critical. And so then that would flow outward. And so as I've stopped becoming less critical of myself, I'm then less critical of everything around me. And then, of course, as I'm more positive to myself, I then be more positive to those around me. So positive feedback, both for your partner and for yourself, goes a really, really, really long way. It's fuel. It keeps both business partners engaged enough to handle hard conversations without defensiveness. So go and give more specific feedback than you feel is necessary, especially when your execution pressure is high. Lesson number 6 is communicate before silence costs you. We had one of my business partners, when she was ill, when she had stuff going on, she would just retreat and not talk to anyone. And if you're that type of business partner, you need to do serious work on what's going on there, because you're going to basically rug pull and leave your business partner in a really shitty position. And that's not fair. It's not fair for you to do that. It's not fair for you to leave everything to them. So very simply, just name what's going on. Like, hey, I'm feeling under the weather today. I've got a migraine. Or like, hey, I've been having a couple relationship issues recently. And then come with a fix. Like, I'll have this solved by the end of the day. Or I'm going to go for a walk. Or I'm going to go do this thing. Or I'm going to go do that. Like, go and communicate. It's not that hard. Just communicate before your silence becomes a problem. And so I'm not saying that you need to, you know, always come with a solution like, oh yeah, I've got this issue in my relationship and I'm going to a therapist and I'm doing it. Like, I'm not saying that, but just communicate. Like, be as proactive as you possibly can be. Number 7, decision frameworks. You need to both have a shared process for decisions, especially when speed, emotion, pressure, and power dynamics are in the room. One of the issues that I had in the past was I would come onto a meeting, I would agree to something, but I've agreed to it kind of in a people-pleasing manner where I've said, yeah, that's okay. And then I've thought about it 3 or 4 days later, and then I thought, actually, that doesn't align with me whatsoever. And then my business partner has come back and said, but you already agreed to this. This was like, you already said that this was okay. And that would cause resentment, that would cause problems in the partnership. But actually, if we'd come together as having a pros and cons list around a certain decision, what are the pros and cons of this, upside, downside, trade-offs, timing costs, any second order consequences. So like, hey, if we spend money on this marketing agency this month, okay, cool, we're gonna get more leads and we're gonna get more sales. Great. If we get more sales, now we're gonna need to install a better client delivery mechanism. And so, hey, when we go and invest in this marketing agency and this marketing and the leads start flooding in, and the sales start coming in, would you be able to help me with sales calls? Because I think that there's going to be a lot. And also, hey, would you be able to go and design a client delivery system so that we can handle all this inflow? So then you've got ownership, right? Going in these different places. I'm not saying marketing agencies, by the way, are your flow. I'm just giving you an example, right? From lived experience. Another lens you could go at is like, what decision would the calmer, stronger, more experienced version of us respect later? Or what would the calm version of me respect later? And then values check. Does this reflect the business that we said we were building, or are we reacting to pressure? And then moral check. Does this spiritually, ethically, consciously align with you and your move? And then even this is like, what would a trusted advisor, coach, or objective outside perspective challenge here? So oftentimes my clients will come to me to go and reflect a specific issue that was going on. Like, for example, I'll bring this up. I had one of my clients, Lissa, was offered a business partnership role with somebody who was doing 1.5 million a year, right? I'm going to block this out. And it seems like a really good idea, but she was like, I'm not really feeling excited about this. And so I've asked her, if I would go back to my past self, my past business partnership, I've made my business partner a client and come up with a custom offer at 5 to 10K a month, and then agency style done it. And then I said, it sounds like from her voice note, this person doesn't really know what she's doing. Or you could charge a bit more, charge a percentage on sales more, whatever that is. And so I challenge my client, because it can be so easy based on vibes to just go into a business partnership and be like, yeah, this is going to be great. But you want to have different perspectives so that you can keep moving. And this client, by the way, has been like month over month increasing her cash flow in her own business. And so it's like, it doesn't make sense for her to go into that business partnership. And so it's something to consider, is like, can you go and get somebody external to give you advice and support on this? That's what my clients do, or they will have done if they're listening to this, likely. Number 8 is protect the cash. I highlighted this earlier, but if one person can control the oxygen, rug pull cash flow, or lock the other person out, trust becomes a massive liability. And so if you're not sure on what's coming in, what's going out, you don't have that on a sheet that you can both access. We had some clients that went up to 320K a month, and then one of the business partners left because he had no visibility on the cash flow. And he was the one who was running the operations side of things, and like, not to put the pressure on him, but he was one of the reasons why the cash flow and profit margins were so low. And that's not his fault. It's his business partner's fault for not giving him the cash flow to understand, what can I do to help and shift this? And that was causing resentment because of the business partner having fear around the original business partner, having fear around having transparency in the business. Now, I'm not saying every single team member needs access to this, but I'm saying across business partners, you need this flexibility and shared visibility. You also need to see who can view, move, approve, or restrict cash flow before the pressure hits. And again, like I said earlier, having legal recourse. If money is pulled unfairly, or one business partner leaves, there needs to be a legal recourse for what's going to happen there. Otherwise, you end up in situations like me, where I'm owed at least 20 grand from business partners. So it's not an issue, but I'm just saying, right? It's like, what are you doing to protect cash flow from a trust responsible partnership design? Number 9 is set spending thresholds. So money decisions change the risk profile of the business, and anytime you put money into anything, there is a level of energetics to it. And so you might have a threshold. Let's say it could be $100, $500, $1,000, $3,000, where, let's say you have a service-based business that you're doing tree care with. You might have small tools, routine expenses, solo things that you can have a below threshold and say yes on. And then above that, let's say big commitments, debt, hires, contractors, etc., you make a collective decision on. And that collective decision might be just a quick WhatsApp or a quick call saying like, hey, have you got 5 minutes? I got a thing that I want to chat to that's above our financial threshold. Now, this is where it gets really important. Some of these micro expenses that you might have been doing, for example, buying Red Bull for the team or consistently buying coffees for everybody, might come under your threshold. But over the month, they might go above your threshold. And so then you want to say, well, hey, I really value like giving to the team, but I realize we're spending a lot on getting these coffees or looking after people. You know, let's get a mutual approval on what we're going to do on this front. Because again, oftentimes the big cash flow outflows within your business are not going to be the big things, although sometimes they can be. Like sometimes your self-sabotage might be you make all these different like micro money decisions and then you do great, like you do good with savings and debt clearance, and then you make this big decision that puts you in a hole. That's what I used to do. But 9 times out of 10, it's the minor payments that are being missed that are eating away at your cash flow. And so it is worth looking at that spending thresholds. And yeah, you could have a weekly meeting for this, like once a week, 20 minutes. It doesn't take that long. Number 10 is don't buy the fantasy. So choose the person in front of you, not the story your ambition wants to believe. This, oh my gosh, this screwed me. Like I would have made so much more money if I hadn't done this. So yes, you can be on total vibes with somebody, but you don't want to be partnering with somebody on the version that you hope that they become or the potential of the business. You want to be partnering based on reality. So you want to be looking at the work reality of like, does this person execute when it's boring or hard or repetitive or not emotionally exciting? Red flags. How does this person that you're partnering with treat people, treat money, treat commitments, treat loyalty, treat uncomfortable truth? How does this person react when I challenge them? Do they take ownership? Do they manipulate you? Do they collapse? Do they attack you? Do they avoid? And how does this person emotionally regulate? Can they stay responsible when life, relationships, insecurity, or ego gets loud? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I remember having a business partner, and I had somebody die in the family, like a grandparent, and I was like, okay, this person's died, but I still have a responsibility on this team, like the other 7 people in the team, as well as my business partner. I have a responsibility to show up. I'd let them know, like, hey, this person passed, but I still move forward. And, you know, I was watching this this other marketing, what was it with me and marketing agency owners? Anyway, I was watching this agency owner who's a big name in the space, and he was talking about how his brother got kidnapped in Haiti or Honduras or something like that. And how he basically didn't tell the majority of people. He told like his business partner and he told like his personal partner, but he still kept showing up for work, still kept operating as it was normal, because he had clients, he had people that relied on him to show up. And so that's really important, is you're picking somebody that also shows up, because the fantasy partner and the real partner are not the same. Okay? And I'm not saying like your person that you're going to potentially partner with or are partnered with right now is irresponsible. And I'm not saying that you can't work on these responsibilities. But if you're considering getting into one, it's something worth to look at. Number 11, choose the right structure. So not everyone who can help the business should become a business partner, because equity is the heaviest structure. It's not the default one. So you want to use the lightest structure that solves a real business need. So if somebody is being brought in to solve a specific problem, then pay them for that specific problem. Like if you're looking at support, then maybe it's a coach that you need to get and help you think, lead, and execute better. If it's somebody that is a consultant, then they should be diagnosing a problem and prescribing a solution. If it's a contractor, then completes a defined project or deliverable, then make them a contractor. They don't need to be a business partner. And again, if somebody's going to take on board and say like lead sales, then maybe they need to be a sales rep, not a business partner. If they're operating under your systems and standards and they have to follow what you're doing and they have to follow your directive and you don't want to change that, then maybe it's a better fit that they're an employee. Right? And so there's all these different things here that are really important to reflect on. And again, either for whatever role that they're going to be on, Or maybe leadership, they're going to be a growth operator. Like in one of my partnerships, that's what I was basically. I was a growth operator, but it was an unofficial growth operator, and it was positioned as a sales rep, and it was also positioned as you're going to become the CEO. So it was this whole sort of messy structure. I was unsure, she was unsure, and that created resentment. It created emotional weight. Whereas actually what would have been better was I probably could have made a better assessment ahead of time and come in as an official growth operator rather than a sales rep who had to double up in all of these different roles and then was told that they're a business partner, but that wasn't really in writing, and then was rug pulled before the end by a romantic partner as well. So savage, I know. There were tears. Either way, with whoever you're going to work with, you want to have this trial role. You want to have this trial period where you can get out of contract or get in contract. In one of my recent partnerships, if I had had that as a trial role without kind of sweat equity poured into it, then I would have probably exited that within a couple of months. So it's something to consider. Or actually, on reflection, I would have just come in as a coach or a consultant for that person, and I think they would have actually got better results. So even though that business went from 0 to 50K a month in 3 months, I think that it would have gone a lot further had I just come in as a coach or consultant, or even potentially as an agency or operator, not as a partner. Also, lesson number 12 is treat friction as data. Treat friction as data. So different perspectives can actually become a really competitive advantage, but a lot of people, as soon as they get friction, they think bad feelings are bad. They think negative feelings mean bad things, but they don't. If you're feeling fear, anger, even guilt or resentment, this is fine. It's not a threat. It often is really good reflections for blind spots, weak assumptions, decision gaps, and places where the business needs a stronger standard. And so there's no such thing as unhealthy friction. The only time it becomes unhealthy friction is if it turns into ego or avoidance or manipulation or blame or emotional shutdown, and then the business loses clarity. Useful friction is different views, better decisions. So if you both stay responsible and test different outcomes and test different assumptions, then you can then go and follow the decision framework and find out what works. So it's kind of like sharpening the axe, right? Now, 13, your partner is not your therapist. You have to go and get support externally. I'm not talking about just from a therapeutic standpoint, but being a responsible business partner means knowing what your weaknesses are, and then from there, going in and getting support in those areas. Because if you're just offloading without any kind of ownership, then your partner might understand what's happening, but they shouldn't become the container for every single insecurity, relationship issue, confidence dip, leadership block, or productivity crash. Now, they're there to support you in elements. I get that. They are there to help you with certain things and say, hey, how can I best support you? Or what do you feel would be best here? What would your future self do? But you need to get the right external help for the issues that you're facing so that the partnership is not just carrying the emotional weight it was never designed to hold. So, worth considering. Now, trial before equity. So before making somebody a business partner, work together for 1 to 3 months in a paid defined role, and then let execution proof replace chemistry, optimism, and vibes. Some of my best hires have been the people that I vibe with the least on the interview, but when we've got them to do a trial piece of work anyway, they've actually turned out to be my best hires. And I've said, well, let's just hire the person who does the job really, really well. And then I vibe with them more because I appreciate, like, one of the ways in which I appreciate people is quality work. Like, if I vibe with you initially, but then your work is shit, it's not going to work. Not going to work at all. And so you should be defining what that role is. Make it very clear what that lane is. Then measure the work. What are the deliverables? What are the communication? What's the ownership? What are they like in terms of responding when pressure appears? And then review the fit. So decide then whether they are truly a partner and should get true ownership of part of the company, or whether they are better as a hire contractor, coach, consultant, whatever that is. And the reason being is because vibes can lie. You can instantly like somebody and still discover that their trial work is weak, slow, misaligned, or not up to standards. And I think evidence proves the truth. So some of the best people are not the people that you vibe with the most. They are the people who do the jobs the best. So don't partner on vibes, partner after proof. Matching vision and pace. This is another piece that I wish that I'd put in here. I wish I'd done earlier. Is remember that two talented people can still row in circles if their ambition standards and weekly operating rhythm are not moving at the same speed. So when I started one of my business partnerships, I said, like, I want to be at 500K a month within the next year. She was like, oh, I'd be happy if we made 100K a month. And so if one partner is building towards 500 and the other partner is comfortable with 100, and I mean comfortable, then there's going to be misalignment in every hard decision. So when it comes to ambition, are you aiming at the same future or quietly building different businesses? Pace, does the speed of execution match the size of the target? Standards, do you both agree on what good work, urgency, and ownership should look like? And rhythm, do you have those weekly reviews, the issue logs, and team rituals where you can keep connected? This is a bit of a pro hack, but if you have an admin or office person or an executive assistant, if they can report between the two of you on what you both did each day, that goes a really long way. And so creating a checklist for that goes a really long way as well. Now, I have created a pre-partnership checklist for you. So before signing any documents, sharing accounts, or giving away equity, you want to ask these questions that expose whether this is a real partnership or just an expensive assumption. 1, what outcome does each person own every week? 2, who views, moves, approves, or restricts business cash? Which choices are solo, shared, or written approval only? Next, what external help is required when personal issues affect execution? What deliverables prove that this role is being done effectively? Spending, what number requires mutual approval before commitment? Conflict, how do we make decisions when we disagree under pressure? Exit, what happens if someone wants out, stops delivering, or changes pace? Equity, why is ownership the right structure, not a paid role? Access, what happens if one person locks the other out? Oh, I'm having flashbacks. Communication, what is standard when capacity, health, or energy drops? You know, what happens there? And then what are the written consequences for repeated underperformance? If these answers are vague, you are not ready to share equity, accounts, or control. Go and do the hard work. Just go and do it properly. It will save you a lot of headaches. And so remembering this, for this training, partnership is leverage or liability. It works when it multiplies judgment and speed. The right structure gives you more clarity, faster execution, stronger decisions, shared ownership, and a second brain under pressure. When it breaks is when the wrong structure costs money, energy, confidence, trust, legal pain, and moments of momentum that you cannot easily recover. So the final rule is do not build partnership on chemistry alone. Build it on design, standards, proof, accountability, and written truth. That said, for those of you guys who are my clients, you will have a custom checklist down below or a workbook that you can go and work through. For those of you guys who are on this channel and you want to become a client where we can actually give you these perspectives and help you solve possibly millions and millions of issues. One of the issues that we solve with another client, we have something called a priority call in my high level one-on-one. And in this priority call, effectively, she was like, Luke, I really need you right now. We hopped on the priority call, and basically what had happened is through poor communication from her end, she'd created a massive business problem for her partner where her business partner wanted to leave the partnership. And so that was obviously causing her a fair amount of self-doubt and anxiety, but we fixed it by helping her take ownership of her challenges, and then teaching her how to communicate in a more effective way. And so that is why I am the self-sabotage coach for scaling entrepreneurs, for 6 and 7 figure founders, because we can get you out of those issues pretty damn fast. And so if you've come through this and you want to move at speed with this, then feel free to book in a call down below on what it looks like to work with me. If you're a client, then glad that you enjoyed this training. We'll see you in the next one. And with that said, we'll see you soon. Bye.